Hi, you're watching Teen Kids News. I'm Reed. Let's begin with our top story. When it comes to applying to college, no part of the application offers you a better chance to show who you are than the college essay. Emily gets some tips.
If you're a natural writer, then tackling the college essay is no big deal. But for many of us, the essay is one of the most daunting parts of the application. Lucky for us, the Princeton Review's editor-in-chief, Rob Franick, is here with advice. Rob, you have 5 essay tips. The first one is, do your prep homework. What does that mean exactly?
Oh, it's a good question. And just like any high school assignment, you have to do your homework for your college essay assignments, but specifically the essay requirements at the colleges that you're considering applying to. There's a checklist of application guidelines, and you have to make that list of the requirements for that essay, from prompts to possible topics to overall length. And you can also check the essay prompts for the Common application. On the Common app, you can apply to over 1,000 schools using one Common application.
Okay. Your second tip is to start early. How early?
Ideally, the summer before your senior year is the perfect amount of time because it allows plenty of time to write, rewrite, edit, spell check, grammar check, all of your essays.
Do you recommend writing a new essay for each application, or can we just reuse the same one?
One size doesn't fit all necessarily. Let's remember that if you're using the Common application, there are a series of essay prompts to choose from. Choosing one of those prompts and writing that one essay is completely acceptable. Many schools may ask you to submit supplemental essays. For those, you should write separate essays.
Of course. Why would they make it easy? Moving on to your next tip. Keep it brief. How brief?
Generally speaking, 400 to 650 words. Remember to imagine how many essays admission teams must be reading for each of those college admission applications.
Somehow, I find it hard to feel all that sorry for them. Which I guess is a nice segue to tip number 4. Make your essays truly about you. Meaning us, of course. So you're saying not to try to game the system?
Yes! Not the you that you think admission officers want to see. Stick to your voice and your style and have the essay reveal something about you that's not anywhere else in your application.
I assume sheer terror doesn't count. Didn't think so. And your last tip reminds us how important it is to have a great opening and closing.
Absolutely. Let's channel and remember all of the essays that you created already in high school, having a great opening, a solid middle, and then an awesome closing.
You make it sound so easy, Rob. But with your tips, I will definitely essay to write a great essay.
You're most welcome. You're going to be fabulous.
Before you dive in to what may very well be the single most important essay in your entire life, just kidding. The essay is only one part of the application process. But if you'd like some thought starters, check out the Princeton Review's Essays That Kicked Apps, 55 unforgettable college application essays that got students accepted. For Teen Kids News, I'm Emily.
When Teen Kids News returns, I'll tell you about one of the strangest places to ever hide billions of dollars.
In her Gems of Germany report, Ava tells us about a small town that kept a gigantic secret.
The town of Cochem looks like a place frozen in time, except for the buses and cars. Cochem looks much like it did in the late Middle Ages. A castle still sits high above the village, affording commanding views of the valley below. This is not the original castle. The previous one was left in ruins after invading troops of French King Louis XIV set fire to the castle. After the French left, the castle was eventually rebuilt as a home for a wealthy businessman He added iron cannons and funny-looking stone statues to recreate the feeling of medieval times. The only part of the original castle is this tower, the Witch's Tower. It has a dark name and an even darker history. Here was where women charged with witchcraft faced a simple but awful trial. The accused were thrown out of the tower's high window. It was believed only a witch could survive the fall. So, if she did survive, that proved she was guilty, and she was then executed. However, if she died in the fall, she was declared innocent. Innocent, but dead. Guess they were called the Dark Ages for a reason. Look carefully, and you can see that the town was once surrounded by high walls. Most of the walls are long gone, but 3 huge gates, like this one, still stand. They give you an idea of just how massive those walls must have been. Cochem was, and still is, a thriving town, because a river runs through it. Called the Moselle, it winds its way from France through Luxembourg and into Western Germany. A favorite tourist attraction is to take a short cruise while listening to the pre-recorded tour guide.
The Moselle rises in the Vosges and 545 kilometers later flows into the Rhine at Koblenz.
Along the river, you'll gently glide past the pastel-painted buildings, the many open green areas, as well as the scenic bike paths. The recorded tour guide explains that this area is famous for growing wine.
The innumerable vineyards are the predominant feature of the Moselle landscape. 2,000 years ago, the Romans brought wine to the Moselle.
This valley is so peaceful, it's hard to think that it played a vital role during the Cold War. No sooner had World War II ended than a new conflict began, the Cold War. This was between the world's 2 superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The term Cold War came from an essay written by George Orwell. He's far more famous for writing 2 books many of us read in school, Animal Farm and 1984. Orwell called the conflict a Cold War because while there was lots of tension, angry words and spying, there was very little fighting. But it was still a very dangerous time. In the 1950s and early 60s, the world lived in fear that a terrible new war would break out. A nuclear war. Countries made all kinds of plans in case that happened. In America, some people built bomb shelters in their basements or backyards, stocking them with food and supplies. And kids were taught what to do if there's an attack.
There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He'd duck and cover, duck and cover.
We can laugh at this cartoon today, but back in the 1950s, people were worried that the Cold War could suddenly become a nuclear war. And films like these were made to tell the public what to do.
First, you duck, and then you cover. It's a bomb. Duck and cover. Paul and Patty know what to do.
People in Europe were even more concerned because they lived much closer to the Soviet Union than we do. And that brings us back to the peaceful and pretty town of Cochem. The West German government worried that if there were a nuclear war, how would they be able to keep the country's economy running? So they wanted a safe place to store billions of German dollars, called marks. Nestled in a deep valley and protected by high hills, Cochem seemed a pretty safe place. But where to keep all that money? They decided to bury it in a vault 90 feet underground. And they built these 2 ordinary-looking houses to hide the stash of cash. For years, none of the Cochem residents knew that they were living right next to billions and billions of dollars. In 1991, the Soviet Union dissolved, and the Cold War ended. The hidden money was removed. The vault is now an underground museum, and the fake houses that hid it for decades have been turned into a hotel. Guess if you want to check out this story, all you have to do is check into the hotel. I'm Ava for Teen Kids News.
We've got to take a short break, and then we'll be back with more Teen Kids News. Most of us know that smoking is bad for your health, but as Scott reports, cigarettes contain a chemical that makes smoking particularly harmful to us teens.
I don't really know exactly what it is, but I know you're not supposed to have it, and just can really damage your body.
Nicotine is what gets you addicted to cigarettes.
Well, nicotine is a drug. It's a stimulant. It acts on your central nervous system.
Like heroin or cocaine, nicotine changes the way your brain works. It causes the body to want more and more as you continue to use nicotine. This means nicotine is addictive. But as Dr. Carroll points out, it's even more addictive if you're a teen.
Teenagers have a developing brain, and during that developmental period, you are much more likely to get addicted to things like nicotine.
To understand what being addicted to nicotine means, you need to understand what happens when your body stops getting nicotine.
So when people quit smoking, they will often experience what we call nicotine withdrawal. That is that they're used to having nicotine on board, and then when they quit smoking, their body sort of, has to get used to not having nicotine. So we call this withdrawal.
When you go through withdrawal, you can get cravings. A craving is your brain causing you to want more.
So with nicotine, you get a physical craving for another cigarette.
That craving makes it hard to think about anything else. To give you an idea, we asked adults who smoked to describe what nicotine withdrawal feels like.
It was really hard.
I've quit about 3 times in the 7 years in which I've been smoking.
Enormous cravings, not just cravings for cigarettes, but cravings for food.
Most of it are food, which is not good for my diet.
Because I was getting headaches, I had anxiety, I was nervous, biting my nails.
You can tell that they're really agitated until they get this cigarette.
I would get anxious. I was my craving was put me I need a cigarette, I need a cigarette.
And unfortunately, these symptoms don't go away immediately.
If you're addicted to smoking, the physical cravings last for about a month. So it takes quite a long time to get unhooked from cigarettes once you're hooked.
And that means all kinds of cigarettes and tobacco products, even many e-cigarettes or vape pens, contain nicotine. For example, here's what one maker of e-cigarettes has printed on its pack. This product contains nicotine. Nicotine is addictive and habit-forming, and is very toxic by inhalation, in contact with the skin, or if swallowed. Nicotine can increase your heart rate and blood pressure and cause dizziness, nausea, and stomach pain. Inhalation of this product may aggravate existing respiratory conditions. Need I say more?
They say that safe driving is no accident. You have to work at being safe. To help with that, here's another short video from the National Road Safety Foundation.
Everybody's driving too slowly.
She always speeds, but she's driving, so what can I say?
I can beat this light.
It was already yellow. There was no way we could beat it.
Did I just blow a stop sign? Oh well.
That's it. I've got to say something.
Either pull over and let me out or slow down. You're going to get us killed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you.
She's right. Speeding is stupid.
Don't miss the other cool videos created by the NRSF. It's easy to find more. Simply like, follow, and subscribe to the National Road Safety Foundation. We'll be right back with more Teen Kids News right after this. There's an entire history lesson in a state flag. You just need to know what to look for.
If you ask someone what state they're from and they hold up their hand like this, they're from Michigan. Here's Detroit. The state is shaped like a mitten with a hat on it. Michigan is made up of 2 peninsulas, the lower and the upper, called the UP.
In English, the Michigan motto means, if you seek a pleasant peninsula, look about you. A peninsula is a body of land surrounded on 3 sides by water, and Michigan has an extensive coastline. There are the 4 Great Lakes there: Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Superior.
And it's right there on the flag, the Latin for, "If you seek a pleasant peninsula, look around you." You'll also find lots of water. Michigan has more coastline than any state but Alaska.
And this is actually how the missionaries and the fur trappers that settled the land first got there.
That's one of them on the shore in the center of the flag. Although he's holding a gun, he's waving. A peaceful gesture, you might say. But then there's this word.
Tubor means "I will defend," and dates back to 1835 when tensions rose so high between the neighboring states, Michigan and Ohio, that they almost went to war.
There's more Latin across the top. You'll recognize E pluribus unum, one from many. A salute to the diversity that helps make this country great. Oh, almost forgot. Move over, Diagon Alley. The Michigan town of Colon is home to the biggest maker of magical supplies. With Flag Facts, I'm Ellie.
Here's some words of wisdom. They're from Eleanor Roosevelt, wife of our 32nd president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. That means that believing in ourselves is the best armor against that all too common plague in life, bullies. So it bears repeating. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
It's time for a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back with more Teen Kids news, so don't go away. Let's face it, relationships can be stressful. Trying to please your parents, teachers, friends, even the other kids at school takes a lot of work, and sometimes a lot of worry. Dealing with the expectations of others while staying true to yourself is a high-wire balancing act. Fortunately, there are ways to handle all that stress. Emily has this week's Yoga and You report.
Access Your Inner Power is a book on yoga, and it's written by Brenda Schnabel. So, Brenda, there's not a yoga pose for dealing with stressful relationships, is there?
Well, there is, but relationships really deal on an emotional level. If you think of your relationships, you're happy, sad, angry. Those are all emotions. And the best way to deal with emotions is doing something like working with your mental energy, doing meditation.
Interesting. So, what is meditation?
Meditation, think of like when you're angry with your parents and you really want to calm down. Meditation will help you get that focus, concentration, and bring peace back to you.
So, show me what to do.
All right, so let's sit down.
Okay.
So let me show you what to do. You want to find a comfortable seated position. So you might want to, cross your ankles like this and sit nice and tall. And then take your hands and just place them lightly on your belly. Relax those shoulders down and close those eyes. When you close your eyes, you can concentrate better and you can block out the outside world. And we're going to concentrate on our breath. And we're going to take our breath and feel it move our hands. And when you do that, when you concentrate on something like your breath, the anger that you felt with the fight you had with your parents goes away and you feel better. So open your eyes. How do you feel?
Feels good. So how does meditation help us?
When we feel better and calmer, we boost our self-esteem, our self-confidence, and we can handle ourselves. And we begin to trust our own judgment. And therefore, we can not be swayed by other people's opinions or just people please.
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling calmer and ready to tell my parents about my grades. Well, just kidding. I'm an A student, if that's not stressful enough. Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
For Yoga and You, I'm Emily.
If you live in or visit Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Washington, or Alaska, it's possible you may come across a grizzly bear. If you do, what should you do? Definitely don't run, climb a tree, or try to swim away. Grizzlies can outswim, outclimb, and even outrun Olympic athletes. In fact, a grizzly can run as fast as a horse, about 40 miles an hour. So back to the question I asked a minute ago, if you come across a grizzly, What should you do? Here's what wildlife experts say. If the bear is staying still, move away slowly. And it's better to move sideways. It's less threatening to the bear. And you'll be less likely to trip and fall. If the bear is coming towards you, stay put and stay calm. This next piece of advice may sound strange. Talk to the bear. It seems that the sooner the bear realizes that you're a human and not a threat, the sooner it will probably leave you alone. When you can, move away slowly. Despite all that advice, I just can't bear the thought of coming face to face with a grizzly. For Teen Kids News, I'm Brendan.
That's it for this edition of Teen Kids News. Thanks for watching. See you again next week.